What's going on, folks, and thanks for joining me on another episode of CN Live. I'm Colion Noir, and today we're going to be talking with two-time NRA pistol champ Philip Hemphill. We'll get a sneak peek of some of the new stuff Inland Manufacturing has planned for 2017, and we'll run down some top 5 of 2006 lists for handguns. Our first guest is a two-time NRA pistol champion, and while Mississippi Highway Patrol officer, he was named the NRA National Police Champion 10 times. He's also 2007's NRA Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. Captain Philip Hemphill joins me now. How's it going?
It's going good, Colin. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a good Monday. One of the rare good Mondays. We'll see how long this lasts, though.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, right. So I don't personally have very much experience in the way of bullseye shooting. I don't really think whatever skill set I think I have with the firearm really lends itself to that type of shooting. So kind of break down for me what typically are some of the strong suits of a shooter who is kind of lends himself to being a good bullseye shooter.
Well, Colin, it's just like, we talked about just earlier, everybody has a slow muscle twitch or a fast muscle twitch.
Uh-huh.
Bullseye shooting or precision pistol shooting now, that's where everything started. That's where in the 1930s and 20s, when the law enforcement would be training, they would train using bullseye tactics, and everything has evolved from that. Whether it be police combat, whether it be IDPA, USPSA, anything, cowboy action, everything has evolved from bullseye. Bullseye is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I've shot police combat, won the championship 10 times, shot a perfect score 4 times, but nobody in bullseye or precision pistol has ever shot a perfect score and probably never will.
Ever.
The highest score is a 2680 out of a possible 2,700 points fired by Herschel Anderson in 1973.
Golly.
Now here it is 2016, and his record still stands.
And when was that record set again?
1973.
Are you kidding me?
No, sir, I'm serious.
That is insane. How close? So what's the closest you've come to reaching that record?
I've shot a 2671. That's the highest that I've ever shot.
Gotcha. Okay. So now,
that's But that's you got to stop and think. Now you're shooting 9 10-shot 50-yard lines, and then you're shooting 18 25-yard line at a bullseye on 10 ring that's about yay big.
So from optically, how do you? I mean, are you using magnified optics? I mean, I saw you were running an H1 aim point on one of your pistols. How do you see? Those are magnified. So how do you actually see your target?
I'm very lucky in that aim point is one of my sponsors, and there's no magnification. So I'm looking at the dot, and I've had this conversation with Brian Zenz, with Jimmy Henderson, with Steve Ryder. Do you look at the dot? Do you look at the target? I look at the dot because that's my background. I came from an iron sight revolver background, and we were taught to focus on the front sight and front sight only. Mm-hmm. And your peripheral vision, you see the target.
Yeah.
But some shooters, Zenz and Henderson, they will turn the dot down. They'll look through the dot and focus on that X on the target. It works for them. It works for me. So, I mean, I'm not saying.
I find personally, I always have a hard time focusing on the front sight. I think a lot of it, though, is more mental than it is physical as far as my eyes are concerned. Because I don't feel like I trust my picture if I'm just looking at the front sight. And I'm like, something's gone awry. Maybe the target that's a static target moved. I don't know. But I've always had a problem with that. Now, how much easier do you think that the red dot sights make shooting bullseye versus having to use irons? Like, how do you think that would completely change the game if, let's say, everybody was required to shoot irons?
Well, it would to a certain extent, Colin, but your better shooters, whether it be the Zenz or the Hendersons or the Ryder, whatever, they still going to be up there at the top because they perceive it better. They work harder at it or whatever. Maybe they have more opportunities to work at it, So
gotcha. So now you've won this competition. What about, if I remember this correctly, 10 times?
I've won the police national.
Okay.
I've won Camp Perry twice.
Okay. So what does a typical practice session look like for you, and how often do you practice?
Getting ready for Camp Perry, a practice session would be about 6 hours, probably. Wow. Somewhere in there. And that's probably every day for at least a month prior to going to Camp Perry.
Wow.
The rest I get is my driving day up there.
Uh-huh.
So.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. So,
I love to shoot. I mean,
I'm right there with. Okay, so
right.
So actually, this I am curious about. Within a regular practice session, generally speaking, how many rounds do you go through?
I have gone through 1,000 rounds a day.
1,000, about 1,000 a day.
Yeah, okay. I have now. Now 45 kind of beats me up a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to get into that too.
I probably go about 300 or 400 now a day.
In 45.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now
and I'll probably go about 400 or 500 with the 22.
With the 22, and so you prefer to shoot the 22 because it doesn't beat you up as much, I'm assuming.
The 22 actually hurts my elbow worse. Really?
How so?
Because the gun is lighter. It's lighter, and I'm trying to chase it, just trying to get it in the middle of the target.
Okay.
Whereas the 45 is a little bit heavier, and it just kind of floats around the target.
Okay. So when you are when you are on target and then you're watching your sight, as I like to call it, dance, are you shooting on a rhythm, or are you holding static for a period of time before you take that shot?
It's pretty much, we've all been taught, you take a deep breath and let half of it out, and then you settle in that arc of movement in that wobble area, and then you should be breaking that shot within 2 or 3 seconds, somewhere in there. That's what I try and do. And if it doesn't feel right, or if it's not there, I'll just abort the whole thing and just start all over again.
Really? So during a competition, how many is it on time? Like, do you have a certain amount of time you have before you can take each shot? And what is that time?
Well, it's not per shot, but like the slow fire, 10 shots in 10 minutes.
10 shots, okay.
And time fire at the 25-yard line is 5 shots in 20 seconds twice.
Oh, wow.
And then rapid fire is 5 shots in 10 seconds twice.
Okay. Yeah, I think for someone like me who's a scatterbrain, I think I'd go nuts. I think just having within that first 10 minutes, I'm probably going to shoot about 30 shots just because I wouldn't be able to control my impulse.
Look, if Robbie Latham can do this, and he's just as scatterbrained as I have ever seen. That's all he does is pull the trigger fast. Yeah. So if he can do it, you can.
I can do it.
I promise.
That's good to know. That's good to know because some of the stuff that you guys do with the bullseye shooting is just incredible. It's amazing to me. Just because sure, you throw up a still target, man-sized target, 280 yards away, give me a Glock 26. Yeah, I can hit it a couple of times, but it's everywhere. Yeah. And plus, I have a target that's this wide, so it's kind of like I'll land it somewhere in the vicinity, right? And then I get the immediate gratification of hearing a still target. How do you think the dynamic would change if instead of shooting paper, you were shooting steel?
I don't know if it would change at all, really. Yeah. Nothing. I guess for me, the way that we're trained is you watch the dot or you watch the target, and you know when it is a good shot.
Okay.
And it's a good shot. It's a bad shot or whatever. If you say, well, that might be an X at 1 o'clock, you reaffirm that by looking through your spotting scope and say, is it 10 at 1 o'clock? So we're able to kind of call our shots within reason if everything is working, in accordance, ammunition and pistol.
Okay. And the reason I asked is because I remember when I first started shooting, I started shooting IDPA, and I was having a problem with the still targets because I was more or less waiting for the reaction more so than actually making sure I had the shot, correctly. So I almost had to train myself mentally not to wait for the sound of the target and just shoot it as if I'm shooting paper and then get the gratification of the sound as a result. So I would think maybe there might be an effect, but you would know much better than I would in that regard. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about your days as a highway patrol officer.
Okay, that'll be fine.
So stick with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.